Press the button. Do you want to press the button? Hey, Leslie.
Hello, Benjamin.
We're here today to have another deep end. And there's a few topics that we want to talk about, but also whoever's out there in Radio Land, if you guys have any questions for us, just let us know. There's no comments here. I wonder if we're even live.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we're live. We're just going to have to wait for people.
Yeah.
Maybe people are really busy today.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not as
We're
popular as we
surprising people.
fear we are.
Well, that would be a relief.
Here we go.
I had to pause on your name because I don't know. I'm still looking at you, not sure who you
Yeah,
are.
you're still working. You're still working.
trying to
Maybe that's
figure
why
out.
nobody's showing up
Yeah.
because oh, there's Jenny. Hey, Jenny. All right, there we go. I was worried. Are we even connected? I just need a little signal that we're connected, and I don't need to be popular or anything like that.
It's actually, I think I did a good job. Your hair looks nice.
Yeah, somebody cut my hair and somebody else cut my other hair. I don't know.
Well, I had to do. It was like a 2-stage haircut.
Yeah, I did
'cause
the
I'm
bottom half.
Still learning to cut your hair.
She wanted to know what I looked like without a beard.
Yeah.
And she still doesn't know if she's
You're
rocking
cute.
the cradle.
Oh, you're
now.
so cute.
Yeah, cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm 12. But I have to say, this is a really weird phenomena for me.
What's that?
But the longer my hair gets, the more depressed I get, the more I feel bogged down, like the more weight I have, like on an emotional level, like anxiety and worry and
Oh, your memories are
processes.
in your hair.
Like, yeah, all my memories in my hair, and I need to be free. I need to be connected. I need to be not removed. Now,
It's the
here's
same.
some guy's gonna come and knock on our door.
We'll see.
Is he gonna come and knock on our door?
We'll find out.
Can you talk?
I guess so. I guess so. Hi. Chanel. Oh, hi, Chanel. I saw you're in Florida. I was following your Florida adventure. That's so cool. And hope everybody's having a good Sunday. I'm filling for Benjamin while he's checking the door. I have been trying to figure out what we're doing with these deep end things, and they seem like they're kind of ranging all over the place. But one of the things that I thought might be interesting is to sort of do a roundup of things that we've come across in the last week or two, and comments, viewer comments. I've had some interesting ones on my channel, and
The chickens are 2 houses down the street. I have to go get them.
you do?
Yeah.
Are you kidding
I'm
me?
really sorry about this. Do you want to talk for 5 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, I'll
You're
be right
gonna.
back. I have to
Okay.
go get 'em.
So, I guess our chickens have escaped. I will read a couple of viewer comments that I've gotten. Let's see. Here's one. This was on a conversation I had with Pamela Garfield Yeager, and most of the comments are really positive, I will say. But there have been some people who are still kind of frustrated with the Phil Illy stuff at GenSpect. And this one person says, "You two have really lost the plot on gender nonconformity. A man appropriating women's bodily characteristics for himself and wearing simulacra of women's body parts, like a costume." Oh, this is the one, this is a comment on not the Pamela Garfield Yeager conversation, but on the one with Jesse Manistow and Julia Malott. And they are saying that Julia was wearing large fake breasts. And so I just wanted to say to this one, I don't think that's true. Guess you'd have to check with Julia on that, but I think that Julia uses estrogen and doesn't wear big fake breasts. So that's kind of funny, but interesting. Chanel says, "Tell us about married life." Well, it's pretty great. We're still kind of, I guess, getting rhythms, and it's our first Christmas together, so that's interesting. And we play a lot of board games. I don't know if you guys can see this. Maybe I can tilt this, but there's a game shelf right behind me that's filled to bursting with games. I have kind of a shoe and jacket problem where I can't help buying shoes and jackets, and Benjamin has a game problem. And I think he almost needs an intervention. So I don't know how much he spends on games, but he spends a lot of time on games. And anytime I look at what he's looking at on his phone or on his computer, he's got different YouTube channels at looking at board game reviews. So he's pretty obsessed. And that's interesting. The beard is gone, and Jenny's getting inky with it. Says, was almost afraid Leslie insisted you remove the beard after the tweets. I don't know which tweets that is, but I like the beard. I didn't like beards when I was younger, but I actually like them now. And I like his, but I like him without it too. I kind of thought, what do you guys think? Do you see a little bit of a Dana Carvey resemblance? He looks a little Dana Carvey to me. What's our favorite game? My favorite is this one. Azul. It's like a tile placement game. It's really cool. The pieces are really pretty, and I can't believe I'm actually doing a YouTube live talking about games. This is really surreal. But the pieces are really pretty, and they kind of remind me of Starburst, so you kind of want to eat them. But there's something kind of nice and sensory about this game, but it's also just really, really pleasant. Let's see. Indie Prime says, trust is built not by sacrificing the shared telos for short-term conflict resolution. Did I say that right? Yeah. That's interesting. There was a conversation that Benjamin had with Jonathan Pajot the other day, and I had never, this was my first introduction to Jonathan, and I was watching this morning and really, really enjoyed it, and the thoughts on sacrifice were really interesting. We were having a debate about sacrifice a couple of weeks ago when we did one of these live streams. Benjamin was talking about something about sacrificing. I think this was the one where we were talking about him wanting to wave at women, and he was saying something about, well, you sacrifice that when you get into a relationship, your other interests, your other opportunities. Oh, do you see him out there? He's out there giving the chicken some feed right behind me. Right? What? It's mirrored, or it's not mirrored, so it's weird. But the thoughts on sacrifice, his suggestion was, isn't it a good thing? Doesn't a woman want to know that their husband or their partner has sacrificed in order to be with them? And my response immediately was no, not necessarily. I don't think so, but I think it's more complicated than that. It's not so much that I don't. Okay, you're here, so we can talk about sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
It's not so much that I don't want you to have sacrificed to be with me. It's just that I.
Are you playing Azul with the people?
Yeah.
Weirdo.
But I don't want the sacrifice to be for me. And so there's that framing. And so I was saying, I understand what you're saying now. I understand. Okay. There's a pivot that is a slight reframe. I wouldn't want to have someone sacrifice for me. But if you're sacrificing for the relationship, that's kind of between you and your life trajectory. That's between you and your meaning making, not about me.
Well, I mean, don't you have to sacrifice your desire not to be sacrificed for in order to reap the benefits of my sacrifice to you and not to denigrate it? If I'm sacrificing for you and you're like, oh, don't sacrifice for me, then and if I can't go forward in my own development without sacrifice, well, I mean, it really does depend on what you mean by sacrifice.
Right. And it also I think when you ask
me, do you not want to owe me anything? Is that what it is?
Maybe that's part of it. But I think also it's the framing. Like, I would not have thought, why would I have any opinion about your sacrifice? Why would it be something when you say, don't you want your partner to have sacrificed for you? That's where I'm like, I think, was I supposed to be involved in that process? Was I supposed to have an opinion or a value around that? I don't know that I.
Okay, well, but would you not be grateful for someone's sacrifice of their own interests for you and sacrificing my own individuality for our relationship? Would you not be grateful for that?
I guess I would, yes, but I would. It's weird for me to think in terms of that because I think I'd already do so much of that in my own way, I do, if you're going to put it in those terms, then I do a lot of sacrificing and for relationship, for you, for my children, for friendship, for work, for everything. And I don't think about it that way. It's just something
You
that's
don't think
very,
about what way?
in terms of sacrifice.
Okay, but sacrifice has a very specific meaning for you, and it's got a different meaning for me.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and lay it out?
Well, I kind of jive if anybody's watched the Peugeot episode.
That's what I kind of let in with,
So
yeah.
you let in with the Peugeot episode, that sacrifice is the foundation of my entire moral framework. Now, my entire moral framework is a Judeo-Christian moral framework.
Mm-hmm.
The moral framework is distinct from the religious doctrine, though they are very bound up into one another, and you can't necessarily untangle them. But because of the way that I was raised, and just because of my context, that was what was engraved upon me. So it's a part of me. I've wrestled with it, but I've come to peace with it, that's how I have been set up in my cultural operating system, is that sacrifice is essential to every step of my ascendancy toward the good, or my participation as an intermediary between what is below me on the scale and what is above me on the scale. And what that scale is could be a number of different things. You can think of it in terms of you can think of it in terms of humans. You can think of it in terms of cultures. You can think of it in terms of class, though, that you get our caste or class, which people just have a hard time with. I don't really have a hard time with class. People like get really upset when being classist and saying there's high and a low class. There's higher forms of culture. There's lower forms of culture, and it's not necessarily blocked into your monetary status, but the way that it is that it is bound up in your monetary status. But there's people have more refined tastes, and people have more coarse tastes. And there is a place for potty humor. There's a place for dick jokes. There's a place for, like what we saw yesterday. There's a Chinese translation of a hospital where it says cunt examinations, right? So, and it's funny. It's vulgar. It's funny, There's a place for that kind of humor, but there's also a place for other forms of humor or other forms of joy that are more refined. And some things are more coarse and some things are more fine. And my relationship to the good, insofar as I am a moral agent, that I participate in either lending towards the bettering of the world or the lending towards the worsening of the world, in my framework, sacrifice, or a certain definition of sacrifice, is how I participate in the bettering of the world. I release my desires hold on me. I train myself to have patience. Patience literally means to suffer. Now, I always kind of get annoyed when people use like etymology as some sort of argument. It's not. It's just that's
Love
how
etymology.
The word, yeah, I love it too, but people kind of over rely on it in this like very sophomoric
I think it's great because it's actually really understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah, there's that one saying like, don't ever ask God to teach you patience because he will, right? So, but patience is, I think that Christianity, or the story of Christ, or the example of Jesus Christ, is one of deep sacrifice on every level. And the sacrifices that he makes are sacrifices that offend a lot of people, because he's sacrificing these moral standards. He's sacrificing certain sorts of disdain for the lower class, and he's showing that there is the lower law. There's a coarse way that hierarchy functions in society, and then there's a finer way that caste or class functions in society. There's the dirty of body, and then there's the clean of heart, and you can have a very immaculate presentation and you can have a very dirty heart at the same time. We were just watching The Never Ending Story, and when you meet yourself, it can be the case that you actually see that you thought you're one way, but you're actually another way. And the way that one grows as a moral agent, or the way that one, even I believe, grows as a conscious being, and I think that you can see that in human development, it's embedded in human development, is accepting that the other exists and that the other is more important than me, or the us. And once I make the other more important than me, then I have access to something greater than me, which is an us. And so participate that act of sacrifice. So I don't know what you mean by sacrifice. Sacrifice could sound like this really grueling thing where I'm like rending my garments. I'm like, oh, it's so hard to sit down to dinner with you. I don't want to do that. I want to pull away my video games. Oh, you're making me do this. Now that is not proper sacrifice.
No.
And
I agree.
The example of Christ is that your sacrifice is annulled when you do that. When you demand something, it's yourself interrupting the sacrifice. It's yourself interrupting or holding back from that ascendancy of that hierarchy of values.
Well, I guess I would say that I think, and thank you for articulating that. But I think that perhaps there's an explicitness and an analysis, this linguistic analysis that we're going through, this process of understanding what sacrifice means.
Okay.
And you're laying out things that have been second nature to me for a really long time, because I've been a mother for so long and I've been part of a family unit for so long that it's not something I think about in that way. And perhaps it's a life stage sort of way, because you were coming out of being relatively just solo independent relative to the life that I've been living.
Yeah.
And so maybe for you, you're having to work through this in a way that I don't think about it these ways.
Yeah. So I don't know how you perceive me working through this.
Okay. Just linguistically, just talking about it, analyzing it in terms of like thinking about it in terms of sacrifice.
How else would you think about it?
I guess you just wouldn't think about it.
You don't.
You just
think
do.
You just do. Mm-hmm. And then what happens when?
And maybe that's kind of a masculine feminine thing too. The mother versus the father. If you think about in a family, there's this. I thought this. Who was it that Jordan Peterson was just talking to? I loved this conversation, and I want to buy her book. So let me see. It was Sarah Hill, Dr. Sarah Hill. It was such a good conversation. It was attraction, beauty, growth, and sex. And
I'll put it there because it'll interrupt it.
But they were having this conversation, and one of the things that he said is, how do we? Her book that she writes, she starts. It's like Your Brain on Birth Control or something like that. It was called, and it sounded really interesting. But she started out with a chapter about what is a woman, and they kind of laugh about the irony of this a little bit, but then they go into it. And one of the things that he talked about is, how do you conceptualize? Is a woman best conceptualized as an individual or as a mother-child dyad? And there's something that's so natural about giving to the other that comes with motherhood that I think there's an sort of a unspoken fluidity to that process that when I hear it articulated,
it sounds harsh and crude.
Well, it sounds
forced.
It sounds
transactional.
Maybe. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there was this tweet that surfaced on Twitter that I found profoundly telling, and you know, I'm not allowed to talk about feminists
Not by me
as a group, but I know.
I mean,
that's
I'm not.
a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke.
That's that meme that you
You
put
have
up
to
on here.
You have to
where
sacrifice your literarity for literality. And I'm just going to paraphrase this tweet. And it was this: some woman had done a TikTok about teaching her daughter to serve her husband, and that her highest,
the little girl, her
highest destiny or achievement in life is to be the servant of a husband and
a family.
Yeah. And this other woman on Twitter took stills from that and said that this is the most repugnant thing that she has ever seen. That women who teach other women like this are vile class traitors. And I thought that was profoundly telling for the Marxist feminist framework, that the family is it. She's talking about class traitors, but it's really about yourself. It's really about no, I am more important than family, than husband, than child. My career is more important than that. And because I'm an individual, and this is what I think Peugeot is kind of trying to talk about. Once you atomize yourself from the family structure, that natural family structure, and maybe you'll say it's not natural, it's a Western patriarchy, colonial, whatever. But once you atomize yourself through Western colonial atomization, individualization, you are disconnected from a root. You're deradical, not deracinated is the dark right wing money term. They don't have a lot of money. They're just the dissident right. So you deracinate yourself. You take your roots out. And then what you need is a superstructure. You need to have some sort of connection. And so you jump from a family that is based on these relationships that are very personal, very long term, and inviolable, then not really consensual. Like you can consent to being married, but after that, there's no more choice. You can't really choose your children. You can't choose your parents. You have to obey this natural order. You deracinate yourself from that. You're an individual now. And then what connects you to anything else? This is class. It's this idea of class, and what comes into there is this totalizing state that says, okay, I will make sure that you are treated fairly in whatever situation that you go into. Now you're a career woman. Now we have DEI departments, HR departments to regulate the system and to act as kind of a nanny to protect you in this kind of wild jungle. And so I posted, like, what is more important in life, to serve your family or to serve your class? But classes really mean yourself, right? I really do think that when you say like you're a class traitor, it's like you're violating yourself.
You think so?
You're
That's
putting
interesting.
yourself down, and there's like this. It's a hidden. It's a really. And that tweet got 104,000 likes or something like that.
Hers?
The woman that was
angry woman?
breaking down
Yeah.
the woman that was teaching the
Yeah,
girl
yeah.
to behave according to a certain structure. And then, but the Marxist structure is just as rigid and just as totalitarian and demanding. It's just through this totalitarian state as that family unit.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that meme that you see every now and then, that it's kind of like a trad wife meme that's shows the woman over here serving her family, but this other woman over here is serving the corporation.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, you're serving the corporation.
Yeah.
Your family is the state. And that just points to what you're saying. It's really interesting with women's liberation and this cultural phenomena called feminism is in a certain way an attempt to give more. On one level, it's an attempt to give women wiggle room from that natural bond. And even you've said this to me in conversation, where like women are kind of get the short end of the stick. I believe it was you said women get the short end of the stick with the birth, with the responsibility. Maybe we weren't.
Okay,
the one. Maybe it was.
I don't
Maybe it
know
was.
that this was
It
me,
might
but
have been
tell me.
Sarah, or it might have been somebody else that I was
Okay.
interviewing. Where she said that women kind of get the short end of the stick.
Okay.
With regard to
what?
Well, with beauty standards,
Yeah.
with reproductive capacity, with the consequences of the reproductive role of the female, being really vulnerable, and then also basically having to give up her individuation to innovate other.
Well, it's so
individuate other
reliant
children.
on. I mean, all of it works if all of it works.
This
but
is
as
your
it falls
point.
apart, it all falls
It
apart.
spools out.
And so, if we're talking, again, the heteronormative is the framework that I'm working with here, because that's the norm.
It's the best. It's the least gay framework out there.
All right.
You're not supposed to say that, so I retract that.
Well, but so
That's me being a shitheel.
So in that framework.
In that framework,
and
which is a trinity of mother, father,
and
children.
children. Yeah. Then, if as soon as the father does something wrong, maybe he is neglectful or abusive, or is not providing properly, and this scale this out culturally. As soon as men are failing, women suffer for the failings of men, and children suffer for the failings of men.
Yes.
And so if women don't have the right and the ability to try to to take up the slack left by men,
Yeah.
then they're completely screwed. And so they have to be able to take that up if men are not going to come together.
Yeah.
So it all has to come together or it all falls apart.
Yeah, it's interesting, and how women would typically organize would be to create a longhouse or create or rely on some sort of super social structure, some sort of state or HR department. They would work collectively, whereas men would. I guess I don't know. I'm gonna make some bad patterning recognitioning over that. So if you return the individual. And this is what we were talking. This is really interesting. I really wish I could have James and Jonathan speak together, and I hope I can at the same time, because James is pointing out that one of the problems that we're facing, or his ideology, liberalism, is facing, is this lack of a solid theory or philosophy of the individual. And I've heard from post and pre and counter Enlightenment thinkers that it's the very idea of the individual, the unbounded individual, that is the problem with liberalism, because an individual is only an individual for a specific time, and you have the post-feminist thinkers such as Mary Harrington and the women that she's speaking with or relating to in her work, saying that there's this idea of care. At the beginning of life, you're not an individual. At the end of life, you're not an individual. And if we just chop off the human there, what else are we going to start to chop off the human? What else are we going to start like chopping off the human? And then we're going to plug that human into the cyborg in order to sustain its individuality in a certain way.
Yeah.
But I still think, because I am a liberal and I am a Christian and I am pre-Enlightenment, Enlightenment, and post-Enlightenment, I see how all those different things work and how they're all necessary in order to describe phenomena and make the proper choice within any given interaction with phenomena or organization of phenomena. I can see that the individual it's a very necessary concept. Every person that I meet is an individual. They have their own parameters. They have their own personality. They have their own bit of godhood. They have their own sins and their own hopes and struggles and patterns and smell and all that stuff. They are an individual. And so I respect that individual more than I respect their class, their sex, their phenotype. The most important thing about them is their individuality. And that comes from my moral framework. It's really deeply in my moral framework. But the individual and so that's my Enlightenment way of thinking about that, or that's what I would agree with James with. But what Peugeot is talking about in his relationship to that is like this individual it's a weird concept. In Christianity, we talk about this person, and there's a person that's there, and the person is completely defined and bounded by their relationships to other people. And the person is judged by their relationships to other people. How they love other people is how that person becomes proved or disproved as a person, as a good person or a bad person. Is how they love the world. And how one loves the world, in my framework, comes down to this concept of sacrifice. Maybe there's another word that would be more amenable to you and how you think about how you serve. Maybe service is better.
I think it's a great word. I think I just didn't understand your perspective on it, and it really helped me to understand that.
I think that's when the individual sacrifices, the individual is then, and it has to be a voluntary sacrifice, and the person has to be responsible. So there is an absolute necessity for the individual, and the individual is higher than the class, but the individual is at the bottom of family and of community and of church. Like the individual's at once on the top and on the bottom.
Yeah, it's everything and its opposite.
Yeah. And
I think that in terms of sacrifice, the word maybe that you used a little bit ago that my understanding hinged upon is this word transactional. And I think that when you
tit for tat, quid pro quo.
Right, and when you sacrifice for or to someone, well, what in exchange for what? And it's a lot of pressure to put on that other. But if it's a sacrifice for yourself and for the greater and for something higher, then it makes more sense. You don't like that?
No. I totally agree. That's the leap of faith. That's a really hard thing to have happen. And this is might be where we could talk about Peter and Megan's stance with people who are now speaking out about DEI or now criticizing gender ideology.
That Peter Boghossian tweet
is that one sacrifices for love, and you can't have the notion of sacrifice without a notion of forgiveness. Like, I can't put everything on you, right? I can't demand that you love me. I can only give you the example of love and see if I can shepherd you towards loving me, right? And it has to be voluntary. So I can only give you love and then you love me, right? And shepherd you towards love. And if I fail at that, then I'm going to decrease the likelihood that you're going to want to follow me in love somewhere. Right? So I need your forgiveness, and I need to forgive myself when I make a mistake and be bigger than my mistakes and say, okay, I'm going to start over again and not get locked in my mistakes. And when you fail in turn, when I give you love and there's some part of you that's crusty or broken or limited, and you can't love me in a way, like I have to surrender that. I have to not think of you as failing to love me, right? I have to surround you.
So
that
that's
part
the
of
sacrifice
you
and
like
forgiveness.
I have to sacrifice my need for love at that moment, or my chasing of the ideal of love. I have to sacrifice that and live in reality and live in and seek harmony with your fault and hope that too shepherds you to seek harmony with my faults, right? I have to always be the bigger person. And when I fail at that, that which I do, is like, well, I can't blame you whenever I fail at that. Like when you point out my flaws, I can't blame you for that. Like it takes me a moment. You know, I'll say something. I'll be sharp with you.
Is that something I do a lot?
No, it's not. It's not. And this is a dicey part of the conversation.
Or...
hypothetically, if I'm short with you, and you say you're being really short. with me.
That did happen. Yeah.
Right. And I have to. I'm like, and I'm all in that. I'll argue for this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I have to let it go. And everything in me is like, don't let it go. You're going to be emasculating. Don't be the yes dear guy.
Like
don't
the
be
meme that you put on the cover.
Don't be the yes dear mean. You can't do that. She won't respect you. You have to contain her. You have to give her positive ownership, or I can just let go.
The positive ownership thing, that's so inflammatory.
And look at myself as I'm being a prick. And it's okay to be a prick. God designed guys with dicks to be dicks. But sometimes the dick is a dick and it's not appropriate. It's a coarse way of behaving, and I need to not be that way, right? Yeah. I'm not being proper. And it takes a moment for me to say, okay, I have to go and humble myself and put away my desire to be right and prove that it was your fault that I was acting short, right? No. I was the one being short. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm pounding the table.
Pounding the table. Well, it's nice to hear all these thoughts put together. That's interesting.
I need to humble myself and say, listen, I wasn't listening to you. Could you tell me what I was doing wrong? I know that I can only apologize so much because I just need to hear it, and because I want conciliation. I don't want I want forgiveness, not to make me feel like I'm okay, but so that our relationship is mended and we can move forward in conciliation through the evening, right? Like I need to stop and see if I have to take responsibility, let go of my pride, ask for clarification, and seek conciliation with you. And forgiveness is a part of that. Sacrifice is a part of that. It's a part of every moment. And when I fail to sacrifice my ego, and when I fail to sacrifice my impatience, and then I'm short, like it's a failure of sacrifice.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good point. It's interesting because it's on this larger scale and smaller scale. Yeah. So how does that have anything to do with the tweet that you're talking about? What does that have to do with it? And we got.
Did you
there
talk
was a
about
super
that?
chat.
There was a super chat. Did you speak to while I was getting the girls?
I didn't. I just.
The girls follow me. I just go. Do you guys have chickens? If anybody has chickens,
we call them Benjamin's shitty fan club.
Yeah, they're my chicken shit fan club.
Yeah.
they love me a lot, and whenever I walk around, if they're down the street or whatever, they like see me and they run over to me.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, they're like, oh, our big old cock's coming down the road. Gotta follow the rooster. Yep. They got these big old fat butts just running after me.
Yeah, they're really cute.
Do I would like to know if chickens are this bonded to humans. They sit out the door pecking and watching
Yeah,
me.
they want to hang out with you.
It's kind of
Yeah.
odd. Okay, there's a cheaper sat from Jenny's Getting Inky with it. Watched a thing on parental rights. The presenter basically indicated parents are interchangeable because parents are in government and are teachers.
Oh.
So basically, birth parent had no intrinsic value. That's where you get.
Yeah.
That's where you get.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because human beings
that
are
is
bonded.
The logical conclusion of ultimate individuality is ultimate. What?
Yeah, it's
like
state.
you're just pegs in the state.
Yeah.
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 There's
no other way because the individual's nested. It's bonded. It has to be bonded.
Yeah.
It needs assistance. It needs protection. It needs governance. It needs education. It needs shepherding.
Tiny dinosaurs. Yes, they are tiny dinosaurs.
But I don't know what you
So
said. Did you?
I
did
didn't
you
say
read
anything about the
those
tweet.
tweets?
No, I didn't.
And one, I like Megan a lot.
Megan,
Megan Murphy. She's a friend. We've had a
I don't know
internet.
her, but I like her too. I've listened to her podcast.
We've had internet relations for many a year now, since 2018. We've had regular shows and stuff. And I know Peter Boghossian personally, and I think he's a great guy. He's doing really
I don't
good
know
for
him
himself.
either, but I like his stuff too.
And they're both on my team, and so I have criticism of something that they've said, and I know that they're big enough to realize that I'm criticizing what they said, and I want everybody else to know explicitly I'm criticizing what they've said, not who they are, and this is a part of the liberal thing. But I will get to my criticism. Did you want to read your criticism?
No.
Because it was interesting. Okay.
I
Did you
don't-
want to?
I don't know if I want to read it.
You don't,
No,
okay.
it's just the DEI thing. It was kind of like.
Should we just read his tweet?
Yeah, sure,
Because
you
it's
can.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, to the new people speaking, this is Peter Boghossian, and he wrote this 12/9. Was that yesterday? At 11:35 a.m. To the new people speaking out against DEI, when there is now no cost to opposing it, which isn't true. Where were you guys 3 years ago? Where were you when these racist lunatics were destroying our institutions and actively engaging in relentless witch hunts of their ideological enemies?
You know, I want to be careful not to be calling this out because I think that would be doing the same thing that frustrated me about it, and it's
Okay, proceed with caution. But I think it's
Well,
I think
I mean-
I think it's a failure of community building. I think it's
well,
a failure.
but
I think it's just a,
it's a very natural feeling. I mean, I think that's an entirely natural feeling to feel like I stood up, I put my neck out,
okay.
and you guys all thought. I mean, and I'm going to strongman it because I think that there's something here. I think that
Okay.
it's very natural to feel this way. For instance, when I was in graduate school, I was in this terrible class, that was called Multicultural Perspectives, and it was this DEI class disguised as a graduate psychology course, and it was really crazy. Like she actually used YouTube quite a bit, and she showed memes of white people being clueless in order to show us that white people suck. And it's like you're training counselors, and she's telling us that white women's feelings have been overvalued, and it's just this. It was a DEI course on critical race theory, basically, that was taught at about an 8th grade level. And
Of course it was, because the ideas don't stand up to 9th grade scrutiny.
yeah, absolutely. And so I'm in this class, and I raised my hand and I spoke at many points. I tried to engage respectfully, but I kept pushing back. And there was this one day where the teacher misconstrued something I said and then tried to move on. And I said, if I may, and I continued to say, no, my point was this. And she started to cry at the front of the class, and she cried about her emotional labor and how she couldn't make the class a safe space. And so it wasn't safe for us to be talking about these things. And we couldn't really get into these topics in the way that I wanted to, because she's like, I know you're asking for nuance, but we just can't. And then she started to cry. And another student who's actually a trans woman, so a trans-identified male, said, I think we've heard enough white voices, and shut me down. And so then I just sat there, and I'm looking around the room, and I'm like, at least 3 of you guys have emailed me to thank me for things that I've been willing to say about this. And you're sitting there silently. And I went to the bathroom after that class, and I cried, and I felt so angry at those
Did you
people.
cry on TikTok?
No.
Well, if a woman
No, but
cries in a
I'm
bathroom and nobody hears her,
does
does it
she even
actually valid?
cry? So, but I'm saying I can relate to the sentiment that's being expressed, because that sentiment that's being expressed in that tweet, I absolutely get that.
Yeah.
That was how I felt when I wanted to shout at those people, because I know you think you're being a coward and you're letting me stand up there
Yeah.
and and take the licks
Yeah.
because you're not willing to say what you think, even though you agree with me. I know
Yeah.
you agree with me.
Yeah.
And yet I
And yeah,
think
what?
that the point of the whole DEI project, it really seems to be to create resentment, to divide people, and to make people look at each other with skepticism and envy, and and this kind of thinking plays right into
Okay,
that.
so you benefited from colonialism, or you benefited from DEI. It's the same.
What do you mean? Say that. Who benefited from it?
DEI says you white people benefited from being complicit in all this racism, and you not speaking out against racism is your complacency and complicity in these systems of structural oppression.
Okay.
Which is the same thing that Peter's saying, because DEI is
Oh, yeah.
a structural system of oppression that people are benefiting from, or being quiet in is being complicit in.
Well, it's entitlement and resentment
And
processing.
now that the stakes are lessened and you're making that calculation according to your conscience to stand up for what's right, you're kind of a bunch of pussies. Now, I agree with that. And when I speak with people and they say, well, I don't want to go public, or I want to remain anonymous, but this problem is really a big problem, I'm at some point in the last 6 years of doing this work, I'm like, get over yourself, dude. Like, then, like, don't, like, either shit or get off the pot, or just stay in the freaking shit. Like, you can get out of the pot, or you can change the thing, and everybody needs to, like, start to shovel the shit. And you're the first people that start to shovel the shit are gonna get the most dankest shit thrown at them, and gonna get dirtiest, and it's gonna get a little bit cleaner every time. More and more people, and some people's conscience is gonna kind of switch over, where they're gonna say, okay, I think I can handle this shit, or there was enough people, like, courage breeds courage. And so for the courageous to say, you freaking cowards, once they're being courageous, is, you have to be a little bit more. It doesn't seem gracious to me.
No,
And
no,
it
no.
seems like it could lead right into an egotistical
Well,
kind of
it's
framework.
not gracious, and it is. I think it is. It's a disincentive to people to stand up at this point. It's saying you kind of missed the boat, man.
Yeah.
You missed the boat, and it also
It's
on a
unbecoming.
petty level.
Let me just say, it's unbecoming.
Yeah, but on a petty level, it's also like a process that we've been doing since middle school. And I was saying that this morning. It's like,
It's
I
natural.
was alternative before you were grunge. It's
Yeah.
like this kind of
Yeah.
we got here first, and you're a poser, and there's that level of it. But I do think that it's a natural process to resent people who didn't have your back when it could have counted for you.
Yeah.
If we had all stood up at once,
Yeah.
as soon as this started, this wouldn't have lasted. And so there's a natural sense of frustration with people who didn't have the gumption to do that at the time. Yet we have to. It's that sacrifice, that notion of sacrifice you're talking about, forgiveness and sacrifice.
Yeah, I would also say that it's a tactical or strategic, whatever, mistake, because
Team building.
DEI is nowhere near that structural system of oppression is nowhere near defeated at all. It is embedded in every single major institution in the Western world, and the only thing that is going to get it out of there is complete divestment from those institutions, and the complete and utter annihilation of these institutions, and rebuilding them from the ground up. That is my very contentious point of view, and that's going to take either that or very, very near that. If you looked at what happened earlier this week with those DEI, those diversity hire elite presidents of those institutions
Yeah.
going up and getting, and I have some nuanced thoughts about that, which I will under advisement not get into, but it was a lot of grandstanding of that, and they were kind of standing up for free speech kind of in a bureaucratic procedural way, but we all know that free speech is for very specific purposes. Very specific groups can call for genocide of very specific other groups, and it can't be the case that those things are reversed. But the JQ thing like really starts to unravel that whole like free speech for thee, genocide for thee, not for me kind of thing. It's like, well, where do we put this group, and
Right.
like on what level? So one of those professors has resigned, but they're just going to be replaced with another. Well, I'm sorry, presidents. One of those presidents has resigned, and another one's going to take their place who believes in the same thing and just won't
So
step
you're
on that
saying
particular
that
rail.
DEI is not, it's not time to start fighting amongst ourselves. The battle is still on.
No, yeah, there's absolutely nothing gained from strutting one's stuff and saying I was here first, because
Because we're still in the middle of it.
we're not even at the beginning of the end of it. We're not even at the beginning of the end of it. I think, and we might be on a conscious raising level, yes, on an artistic level, or on the way that people's attention is clued into it. Like if we look at where it is manifesting in culture, people are divesting from it, but it's not enough to not watch your Disney Plus. It's not enough to boycott Bud Light. You actually have to take your kids out of school. You actually have to
Yeah.
not hire college graduates. You actually have to build absolutely, completely only invest in alternative institutions. And if you look at what happens with like the Daily Wire, which is like a kind of like Daily Wire Plus, they're trying to make an alternative institution. They're just kind of creating an image of the institution that they're wanting to replace. So it's not really,
Yeah.
we're nowhere near. That was a nuanced point that I don't want to get into because I'm kind of parrying R.N. McIntyre and the Distributist about Daily Wire's Lady Ballers, which is basically just
It
a.
looks cute.
It's
looks
a Farley
really
movie.
funny.
It's like a Farley movie without
I like
semen.
that.
You know, it's just like the Farley brothers. You
I
know,
don't know who those are.
you know, Kingpin, and like there's something about Mary. You know, it's
okay.
just like one of those really crude early
Okay.
20s thing. It's just like a little less semen.
You haven't even seen it. You made me see Barbie, so I think maybe we should see this.
Well,
I think I'm going to pull my Barbie card.
Just kidding. Okay, I guess you're gonna pull
I
your
guess
Barbie. card.
you're going to have to watch something with me
Anybody
that
know
you
this?
don't want to watch.
I wore a rainbow. I want to reclaim the rainbow.
Yeah.
Make rainbows not gay anymore.
No, I think it's a good point though, and I think there's an essential point too if you drill all the way down to the foundation of it, and it's
Okay.
that if you
Here we go, getting radically centered. Let's nestle up in there like the chickadees. Let's lay our double yoker.
Those are huge.
Did you show them?
No,
the
I didn't,
double-
but
okay.
you can.
Maybe
You wanna
that's
go
how
get
we'll
it?
go. No, make your point, then I'll
okay.
go get the double.
Okay, so my point is that if this entire platform and this entire project for you has been about trying to convince people that this thing is
Evil.
such,
Yeah.
when people start to come around and say, I agree with you and I'm going to stand next to you on this, if you shoot them down, why were you doing anything that you were doing in the first place? What was your project about if it wasn't about convincing people that you were right or that you had a point that they should listen to? You can't, as soon as they agree with you, turn on them. You cannot do that, or else you have invalidated your entire project.
Well, and plus, like those poor people, like you ripped them out, like you destroyed that worldview for them, and you gave them a place to go, and then you're like, well, you know, you don't belong with me, so go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting somebody out and then like rejecting them at the same time. It's like, okay, like how big is this politically homeless shanty town, and where the knives going to be drawn, and these little like, is it ever going to not be a shanty town if we can't stop knifing each other in the back? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, the same thing with all the crap from last month with the GC movement.
Yeah. It's the same
It's
thing.
like, okay,
It's the same thing.
let's find somebody to knife him. Like,
Yeah.
oh, he's on our side. Let's knife him. 'cause
Well,
he's a
I think
pervert.
people they get into this warlike process. You know, it's a mental. You're
It's puerile.
well. You have to.
I mean, I'm not calling people puerile. I'm saying the point of view, and I'm puerile too.
I think that there's a degree to which you really have to use a lot of
That was me being puerile.
adrenaline and a lot of
Chutzpah.
yeah, sure, that's a good word, in order to gear up to kind of fight this stuff or to be able to speak up when
Yeah.
you're nervous about it. There's ambivalence and it's difficult to force yourself to come out with a statement when the entire room has a counter opinion. You're in a lot of distress in that moment. and you have to overcome a lot and be brave. And so that those
yeah.
temperamental balances that make you able to do that and made somebody else unable to do that. Yeah, ambivalence.
I've been hearing that word ambivalence ever since we had dinner with Stephen Levine. Oh no, my interview with Stephen Levine. And he's this psychologist, this really wise guy. And he's talking about ambivalence, and we've been using that word a lot. And it always comes up when we're describing something negative, but it's about mixed feelings.
Yeah, it's about having two feelings about something. That's why it's ambivalent. Like, I should speak,
not just
but
two,
I'm terrified
simultaneous.
of speaking.
It's ambi.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
it's holding both.
bivalence. Bivalence. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's what is it that makes someone able to be courageous in the face of a lot of threat, and I think that's fascinating. I think that's something that is a value that we like to see and we should reward.
Yeah.
And it's true that some people have more of whatever emotion leads to hesitation.
Yeah. Or
And some
to
people have more
contrarianism.
Well, but like both. Like there might be two people sitting in a class, a DEI class, both of them not happy with what they're hearing and wanting to say, this isn't right, you shouldn't talk about it this way, you're presenting a falsehood, and this is don't teach us this way.
Yeah.
And what makes one of them more likely to stand up while the other one is just going to go home and be silent?
Yeah.
And
think about it.
What combination of temperamental characteristics and personal history leads to one person being able to do that more readily than another?
I mean, I don't know. I'm going to toot my own horn. But I mean, when I was at Evergreen, I saw all that woke stuff happening, and I was like, this is really ridiculous. I really disagreed with it. But they were so boneheaded about it, or they were so locked into it, that I knew that any public... Well, as a cis hetero white man, I knew that...
Did you actually say that unironically?
No.
Okay.
From their point of view,
Okay.
as a cis hetero white male, I would already not be heard. Like, I would not be heard if I spoke. And they constantly said that over and over, all over the place. It's like, this is the person that doesn't speak. I'm like, well, okay, fine. You're the idiot. Like, so whatever. But so I didn't speak up about it. I got really mad one time, and I talked to I wrote a letter to the president, and I spoke with my overseer about it, because the social justice crap was leading to people just acting like...
They have someone called an overseer?
My boss, but he wasn't a boss, whatever. But then after the whole thing collapsed, I erected probably the most thorough teardown of somebody's alma mater in at least in internet history. Like, I've done more to destroy the reputation and to absolutely tear apart the ideology that spawned that thing. I didn't do it in the moment. I did it later on, and then I collected all the data, and I did it voraciously. But I wasn't speaking up right then and there.
I think there's many forms of...
and there's different temperaments. Yeah, there's different temperaments and stuff. I'm going to get the double yoker.
You're going to get the double yoker.
You want to read any questions?
Yeah, let's read. Let's see. Yeah, he did shave. Everybody's seeing that. Helena. Yeah. Let's see. Women suffer from higher levels of neuroticism. I'm sure that was in reference to something else, Chaucerian fraud.
Yeah, well, I suffer from higher levels of eroticism.
Eroticism, you too.
My ears, they're so erotic.
Especially without all the fur covering them up.
She loves my rhymes against humanity.
Yeah, should be his band name.
I'm sure somebody's already done, some rap star's always done rhyme against humanity.
This is a double yoker. We should crack it for them.
You want to crack it on
Well, you
screen?
have to get into a bowl.
Okay.
You're going to see. It's so cool. If you have never had chickens, it's really fun when you find a weird egg like that. You can see the regular egg versus the double yoker.
Okay, so we're going to angle it down so you can hear the crack.
Okay. Are we?
Where are you going to crack it?
I don't know. You want me to do it?
Hold on. We're going to crack it on my thing. Are you just going to crack it?
Yeah, I'll just crack it on.
But crack it next to...
Oh, crack it so they can hear it? Okay, hold this. All right. Oh, we let up. We let up with this whole like thing about a double yoker, and it's just one giant
It's
yolk.
just a mega yolk.
We had a double yoker the other day. That was really cool.
Do chickens
This
ever?
is a huge one.
There's ever twins? Chicken twins?
I mean, that must be what a double yoker is.
Are you gonna drink this?
You're
dare you
gonna
to.
drink that.
I'm not gonna drink it. I'm not gonna drink it.
No, I had my jalapeno soup.
So, let's wrap up. We got 5 minutes. Did you find any questions? I did want to bring up.
See. You chat while I'll do it.
Okay.
Bring up. What do you want to bring up?
I don't know the last time we spoke, but do we have our game? Did you talk about games?
Chanel Fall is on, and she said, "What's your favorite game?"
Okay.
And I was telling them about your game obsession, and that I need to have an intervention.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm gonna chill out about it. I get obsessed about things.
It's a good obsession.
But we do have to say family game. Did we talk about this? I can't remember if we talked about this. Quacks at Quillenberg.
Oh, show them that. You should show them. Is it right here?
Do we already?
Just looking through y'all's chats here.
So Quacks at Quillenberg. It's a push your luck game. You're basically making these potions, and
it's so cool.
You have a little bag and you pull out ingredients, and there's one ingredient called a cherry bomb, and if you get 7 or the numerical value of 7 cherry bombs, they come in values of 1, 2, and 3, then your potion explodes.
If you get over 7.
7, more than 7.
7 is the most you can get.
So you kind of sit there pulling out these things and putting them down and seeing how far you can go, and then you buy more ingredients, and then as the game progresses, your potion gets bigger and bigger and more complex and stuff, and it's really good. We have one major quack in the family.
Yep, Adrian.
Quite the quack at Quillenberg, Adrian.
Yeah.
I'm second quack.
He's ridiculously good at this game.
He's really good at this game, but
so much so that you're suspicious.
I'm kind of sus because he can get up to 7 cherry bombs, and then he just keeps on magically growing and growing and growing. Anyways, for some reason, like I started playing this, me and Adrian like figured it out together, and halfway through the game, like, oh, this is a good game. And then when I was explaining it to you, halfway through, your face lit up. You're like, oh, this is a good game. And the problem with this game is I think it's teaching you gambling mechanics.
Me?
It's teaching the player,
okay.
So you got to be careful with it.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
That's what makes it fun.
Risky, you get that dopamine.
Yeah, you get a dopamine. You actually get
you
you get a feeling from this game that is like
that's
a
true.
little bit. You have to be a little.
That's a good point. And Julian hates it.
Well, we got to teach him how to do it better.
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
So that's a really good game. That's a really family game. I got it at Target, and there's a buy 1 get 1, buy 2 get 1 free, and then you cancel the 2. And
Vibrant
stuff, so
Goo. Is that your name, Vibrant Goo? That's a funny name.
He loves that. You can get it. I got it on sale. So there's a lot of games that you can get on sale and stuff. That's how I afford my gambling, my gambling addiction, my gaming addiction. Scouring forums for sales. So, what is your grand hope for this month? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, this month?
Yeah.
Well,
In the coming up weeks.
Christmas is coming. That'll be fun. I want to go look at lights. I want to go for a drive to look at Christmas lights.
Yeah, the problem is we have my Miata and we can't take the kids, but we have to go with the top down. Maybe I'll do
You want it one
you know
at
what
a
I could
time?
do? Yeah, maybe we could do 2 trips because there's lights just down the street, right?
You want to take
So I can take Adrian or Julian, and then you can take Julian or Adrian, and we can split it up. So, because the top down has got to be so great to look at with the top down. No?
We'll do 2. We'll do a family drive, and then.
Oh, okay, okay. Whatever.
I know.
Whatever.
That'll be fun, and yeah. So,
Oh.
How about you? What are you looking forward to?
We got a house sitting gig in Hawaii.
Yeah, we do.
I'm looking forward to that. I have a lot of content that I need to publish, but I'm looking for more content to publish. And I don't know who to interview about what. So anybody has any suggestions or
Are you tired of gender?
I have a lot. I have a really good conversation with a detransitioner that I've been sitting on for. I gotta space him out because.
Do you want to do them all at once?
No, I gotta space him out. And then I have one with your friend Carib, which is pretty nice, and I have one with January Littlejohn, which is great.
I bet that's a really good one. She's
yeah,
great.
she's a parent who
She's fantastic.
school went down the path of transing her kid, and so she taught. Now she's an activist against that. It's pretty crazy. And then I have one more with Eliza Mondegreen about U.S. Path, and that's good. We've been creating content for a while, so it's as one's relationship with one's avatar, another person's avatar develops, you get to. I like to enjoy like pushing, like I start to push back a little bit more. I never push back with people that I don't know, and I only really push back with people that I admire or I respect. And so like it's interesting whenever I do am kind of like brusque with somebody, or kind of forthright. Sometimes I'll get comments like, "Why is Benjamin being so rude?" It's like I'm actually like that's a sign of respect for me.
Yeah, you're actually engaging with somebody.
I'm actually like testing them, and I stood up to like I push back on James, and I push on Liza a little bit more than normal.
You did that with
push.
Jonathan Peugeot in that.
Did
a
I?
little bit.
Yeah.
It was a really good conversation.
Yeah. What is love?
That's a good question.
Let's wrap it up,
Okay.
dear.
All right.
Can you
dear.
tell me to do something so we can do the meme? Let's do the meme. Let's do the meme.
Oh gosh, what do I want you to do?
Tell me to do something. Tell me that I'm wrong.
I can't even think of anything.
Think
to
of
tell
something that
you're
you're
wrong.
better than me
Oh,
about.
I did not like the AI pictures of you as a woman.
Oh,
Those were terrible.
I know that was the point. So I can't yes dear those. That was the whole point.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Anyways,
That's all I have.
here.
It made me uncomfortable. Oh gosh.
You want to crack my nut or bust my ball? Let's just go about. Okay, let's wrap this up. We'll talk to you guys. How do you even do this?
I'll do it.
Have a good night, guys.